What's up, everybody? Next Friday, my single, Here and Now, will be available everywhere: Spotify, Apple Music, Tidal, Deezer, you name it. Be there on June 2nd to check out the single, Here and Now, and you can pre-save it still. There's still a little more time to go. Click that link in the description. You'll be notified on release day, and you will be in the running to win a free lyric tee. I will be notifying the winner on release day. That's June 2nd. Make sure to check out Here and Now. The music video will be coming out very shortly as well, so make sure you click that link in the description, spokenlikemusic.com, for all of the details.
What's up, everybody?
My name is Anthony Irvin.
You beat yourself?
Yeah,
Yeah, CB myself.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm Jim Green.
Don't even need to hit a fucking traffic light.
Okay, good.
Welcome to
One set.
Yeah.
Where's the offspring at?
So, this is a very important game.
Well, yeah, because this could end it all for the Lakers, right?
And most teams do not come back, or at least get a win off of a 3-0, being down 3-0 in a playoff series. So,
And for those of us that are listening along, when Anthony says most, the record on the books is there have been absolutely zero teams that have come back from a 3-loss deficit and have actually pulled off moving on to the next round. So,
and LeBron's been having not that great of a series. I mean, his shot's been off. They've been really doing a good job of, kind of making him pass the ball instead of really relying on him shooting. He really started opening up tonight on this game 4. But, I think they were up as close as or as far as up to 10 or 13 points. But then Denver came back.
Well, I think it's important to acknowledge the fumble Ruski of the century from LeBron. These the score app that your dad actually introduced me to, I got the notification from there and I watched it. And I was just like, I wanted to be like, oh, everyone holds him to this high standard, like he's the king. He's King James. And I was like, that is a rookie slip up right there. And I want to say, as good as you are, there's definitely room for error, right?
Oh yeah. I mean, even Jordan had his games where he was way off, and when you look at stats, obviously, and the career that James has had, and me, when it comes to, the whole Jordan and LeBron James debate, I'm always going to be on the Jordan side because I might be a little biased. But when you think of the whole spanning career of LeBron, a 20-year career, and still, playing at this level, you got to give it to him, because there's not many people because he came in from high school and, being 20 years in the league and still putting up phenomenal numbers. You really can't,
contest that.
Be mad at that.
Sure.
You really can't be mad at that. I don't deny he's definitely one of the greatest players, but, I think his career as, being a better than Jordan, again, I think it's two different eras, and the fact that LeBron was always flipping teams and doing this and that to get all his championships, he never got it from just one team, and Jordan took a very bad Bulls team and made them a franchise. So,
Yeah, so in the same parallel, let's talk about Nick Cannon as a father, right? So he has...
Yeah, that's a franchise right there.
But I bring that up because he's like, oh, I was
Put me in,
successful
coach.
here. Yep. Oh, he put himself in. All right. Yeah. So we were saying.
We were saying.
Yeah, no, he
Oh,
is like,
man.
hey, I will be the best for all of my people. And I feel like that's like LeBron is like, I'll play on whatever team and be like, I'll be my best for whoever I work around. But when you talk about Kobe and Michael Jordan, it's like, you know, they solidify themselves in the teams that they were at, and the consistency is important, right?
Right.
And I feel like this generation now is like, yeah, but also, like, they're going to at us about this. They're like, yeah, but if LeBron could do what he does in multiple organizations, and it's like, it's the level of class and respect where I think Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant weigh in, where, you know, they solidify themselves as the legends of, like, hey, we did super great on this one team. Fight me. And like,
Right.
and that's like, and that's the thing. Like, I think LeBron is great in his own right, and he's what we would call like a
That's a three.
generational talent,
Sorry.
right? Like he understands, like, hey, I need to make myself present because of the way that the entertainment industry works anymore. It's like all
Right.
eyes on everything that's important, and I think that that's a valid argument for him to be jumping around. I would actually lobby and support that in modern pop culture civilization with the NBA itself. But you know, him coming in and being like, "Oh, I run this team and I need to be the it man," and then watching them lose because he effed up. That's where I'm like, yeah, Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant had, like, they instilled trust amongst their teammates, and that's where it was just like, hey, I know I'm good and I'm great almost always, but I also have love and respect for my partners that are like, we're out here sharing the common goal, which I think, you know, this LeBron Lakers team, like, it's kind of there, but it's also like the pretentious vibe that, like, oh, the Lakers need to be the it team. They're like the Yankees of the NBA, right?
Right.
To
Right.
be
Right.
fair.
Yeah, I mean, this Lakers team is definitely, you know, regardless to LeBron and Anthony Davis, they're the two veterans of the team. But other than that, they're a very young team. So the fact, and I think that is what's really, you know, working right now with the NBA. A lot of these bigger, older, you know, teams that have a lot of the veterans on there. I mean, they can't catch up to the younger guys. So, you know, that's why I think this Denver team is, you know, really taking a run at it. And I was telling you, I think earlier today, that this is the first time, you know, when I was growing up, the Denver Nuggets were trash. They didn't win anything. They were the joke of the league. We're like, Denver Nuggets, okay. The only time I bought a Denver Nuggets jersey was because Carmelo Anthony was on the team, and you know, shout out to him. He just announced his retirement today, so you know he had an awesome career as well. But you know, this is the first time the Nuggets have been in the playoffs and actually gotten to a Western Conference final, at least that I've seen. So, I mean, I'm pushing for them to get to the finals. I think their team's really nice. You know, you got Jokic. I can't say his name. Is it Jokic or Jovic? The guy
Jokic.
that should have won the
Yeah.
MVP. Yeah, Jokic, the guy that should have won the MVP. I mean, I understand and see it now.
Over who?
Shall we say his name again? Are we gonna do a part 2 on this?
I mean, it just
Say
feels
his
like
name.
I will. His name is Joel Embiid, and I feel like it was a sympathy grant to say, hey, we know the 76ers suck. So we're gonna throw Embiid the MVP. Like there were way more people deserving of that.
Yeah, I mean, Jokic won it last year, and I mean, again, I haven't really been able to watch his game at all, but watching these last 2 or 3 games, I can see why. Obviously, he was the MVP, and he looks like one of the last few big guys that actually play like a big guy. He's not out there shooting 3-pointers. And he's getting to the basket, making his plays, and he's using his size to his advantage, like a big man should. A lot of people are saying, like, I miss the big guy persona, like the Shaquille O'Neals, the Dikembe Mutombos, and Akeem Olajuwons, who would be, the 6'7", 7-foot guys that would be dominating under the basket, and you could not stop them. Where you have guys that are the same size today, but they're shooting up 3-pointers. Now, regardless, Embiid can make those shots. Not always, but it's one thing if you can make them, but you're a big guy. Get under the basket, dominate. So, and I think, and as I'm saying that, Jokic just throws up a three and banks it off the damn backboard. So you're ruining my point, buddy. But this is coming down. It's 111, 109. Denver's up by 2 points with just about a minute left. This is going to get hated if all goes to well. And Jokic has 5 fouls, so he can't afford to get one more, or unless he's out. So
both teams have 2 timeouts left. That's important to acknowledge also. So
yes, acknowledge.
Acknowledge. Yeah.
So yeah, this is definitely a awesome game. Like I said, I'm pulling for Denver, but I wouldn't be surprised if the Lakers pull this one out and just get their one win. But I mean, it's going to go back to Denver if they win. I don't think they're going to get out of Denver with getting the series back on their favor. So if they get this win, I think this will be the only win they get, because Denver's shown that they can storm over these guys, and I don't think Anthony Davis can guard Jokic that well. So I think they're kind of mismatched a little bit. So,
well, Jokic threw the 3-pointer over Davis in like game 2 or 3. He was just like, I know you're tall, but watch this. And I was just like,
yeah,
damn, son. It was so good.
Yeah, and he's taller than Davis too, so hence how he can do that. But it's always good to see two
Laker
big guys
ball.
compete in that type of way. Yeah, they
challenge.
They call it Laker ball.
Throwing a challenge. This is the time.
Oh, yeah, great camera.
Anyone just tuning in at random, this is the One Set Podcast. This is Monday, May 22nd, 11:09 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. This is game 4 between... Oh. Yeah. Let's go. If they just get the ball from the Lakers, that's the end of the series.
Yeah. Yeah, we're watching the LA Lakers versus the Denver Nuggets. This is game 4 of the Western Conference Finals. Right now, Denver's up by 2 with 31.3 seconds. If you guys watch it, obviously, by the time this uploads, you guys are going to know who wins, but we're watching this live at the moment.
Yeah,
so.
but watching in real time is pretty cool. And we appreciate anyone
always
that's
fun. We've done
following along with us.
Absolutely.
We've done this
we've done it with a couple
so many postseason
games. We've done it with Phillies and
across
Eagles.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, Jokić with the nice 2-pointer. Again, like a big man should. Get out of my way. Bam. Knock down some people. In for 2 points. Get out of my way. So, while we wait on the commercial, how was your day, buddy?
Dude,
I know we
today
got to
was
talk a
pretty
little
great.
bit here and there, but yeah.
I mean, I like I told you, I didn't sleep well Wednesday into Thursday, so I woke up this morning, I was like, oh, I slept, but I felt like super groggy, so then I slept a little bit more.
Damn.
Oh,
whoopsie.
Look, Denver's about to win this.
There it is. Well, I mean, there's still 4 seconds left. Lakers ball, 4 seconds. Let's see what LeBron can do, because you know it's going to him.
No, they're going to swerve and send it to Davis instead. And then it'll be 3-1. Watch.
Yeah, hey, 4. Timeout. Yeah, 4 seconds left. But yeah, my sleep schedule's been way off because you know, I've been going to bed pretty late the last couple, like for the last like week or so, because I've been just, filling out content and just getting everything ready for this release, making sure, all the I's are dotted, T's are crossed, and make sure my content's ready to go. Been putting out a little more extra content here and there, and then getting ready for all the rest of my content once the release day comes. That's June 2nd, guys. Make sure you hit the link in the description. Pre-save the song here and now. But on that, little guy's been getting up like 2 times a night because I think he's been teething. His molars are starting to come in, so he's been getting up here and there, and me and Jen have been kind of going back and forth. Here we go. Nope. That's it. Wow. Denver Nuggets are going to the finals. Wow.
Lakers with 0 wins, by the way, in that entire series.
Yeah.
Absolutely 0 wins.
I'm very surprised.
And LeBron is just like, I don't want to talk to nobody. Look at him.
No, he's like, I'm not. Yep, he's out of there.
He's literally Tom Brady. Like, I ain't no
whoopsie,
except you are. You don't. If you're not going to answer to the press, like why you weren't as good as you were, you're literally just blaming everyone else but yourself.
Oh, he'll definitely have a press talk after he, gets dressed and stuff, because they'll have all their press after the game and everything. But he obviously they don't talk to the press, don't talk to losers after the game right on the court.
Yeah, and then he'll blame the organization, his teammates, everyone outside of him, not because he did a bad job.
It looked like he did get fouled a little bit, but he's trying to draw the foul a little bit too. I mean, that could have been a whole. They could have called something there, but hey, that's the game. They could have called jump ball there easily, but yeah, because they could have easily called jump ball at the moment he was bringing the ball back up. But the refs just looking at it like, am I supposed to, blow the whistle or just wait for the time to go out? Oh, time's out. Okay, sorry. These refs this year have just been like all over the place. Like there'll be good games and then games where like, where the hell did he get these? Where did they get these refs from? But yeah, man. Hey, now tomorrow night, Miami might be closing out the game. Is it in Boston? They're the lowest seed, so it would have been Boston.
They're in Miami again. It could be the same exact thing right here.
Yep. Oh, I think they might pull it out then.
Yeah, I think so too.
Like I said, I mean, Tatum, as good as he's been, he hasn't had a good series in this series too. In the final series, he hasn't been as consistent as he was with the Sixers. So,
no, I feel like his confidence is gone, and that's why, Miami is just kind of like, yeah, we're gonna run you right now. And like watching the Celtics, especially with the Sixers, I'm like, they got a lot of good key players on that team that they could easily get to the championship, but if they're not playing to their absolute best, and Miami in April was barely in playoff contention, and now they're just like, and it's not just Jimmy Butler, like the entire team is just like stepping up, and they're like, we can do this.
Absolutely.
Watch.
Absolutely, yeah.
I still think the Nuggets get it done in 6 games. That's my pick. It'll
definitely be a good series. I'll look forward to the I mean, calling it now, but obviously it looks like it's going to be Nuggets and Miami. That'll be a good series. I'll be looking forward to that because you'll have the number 1 team Denver versus the lower seed. I think Miami came in as an 8th seed. I believe they just got in.
Miami was the underdog, and the Bucks were number 1 seed, and the Heat just knocked them out.
Yep.
And did you see the interview with Giannis and the guy that was like, "Do you feel like a failure?" And he was like, "A failure? You asked me this last year. Tell me you saw all of that." Like,
I did.
I was so proud of him for how he handled that, because I'm like, you as a journalist, you're just trying to egg him on for a reaction. And if I can't say any better,
whoopsie,
due to that guy. Like, seriously.
Yeah.
He tried
a reporter doing what he's supposed to do, but still, like they always have those type of reporters that ask the dumb questions, like, do you consider? I mean, they made it all the way to the into the playoffs, but then when you don't expect the game-winning one that you want, you're like, oh well, do you consider this a failure? And then what was he saying? Like, do you consider certain things like Jordan's career like a failure when he didn't make it in to the finals, like the finals times that he did make it into the finals? Do you consider those failures? I mean, there's failures all the time you go through. It's a matter of how you get back and get into it. So I think that almost like just made him more motivated, kind of just like the Jalen Hurts situation. He's not sulking and, blaming me and doing the woe is me thing. He's taking it as motivation to work harder in the offseason, come back next year stronger. So when he's in the same situation again, he knows to learn from it. And hopefully, because, I mean, the Bucks are a really good team. It's just I think the only reason Miami had the upper hand was because he was hurt. He was injured most of that playoff series. So if he wasn't injured, we'd be talking a different ball game.
Yeah, apparently reports are Doc Rivers may be going to the Bucks as their coach.
I heard that too.
Yeah, and I'm just like, okay, cool. So you want to be 1st seed and you want to be 17th seed?
Yeah, like okay, you guys were
by
you
all
guys were
means.
first seed last year. I think I can make you about 17 this year. Like, isn't
I think I can bring
that a
you
little
about
bit
to nowhere near the playoffs. Yeah.
like that would be worse. Like, that's what I meant. Like, that's just what I do. Stupid.
Stupid, right? Oh wow, it's gonna be wild. Basketball is about to be over. Hockey's basically done.
Just about to be over. Yeah.
Baseball is like kind of boring right now.
Football is 2 months away from starting. I think a lot of the off-season practices have just started, so everybody's starting to get the football jitters back and everything. So we talked a little Eagles last week with and we did our little mock scheduled wins losses. So if you guys wanted to check out our predictions,
Predicts. Yeah.
predicts
Get in there.
we can you can go back to the last episode to see our picks of what we did. And even last year, I think, like I said, we were pretty close to what our picks were. So this season's definitely going to be important for the Eagles, because it'll determine whether last year was just we got to the Super Bowl because we had a very easy season and we just had the right players, and the head coach had the right people around him, or we're going to be just as good this year with Sirianni having a brand new set of coaches around him, and a couple of different new players coming in, and Jalen coming off of this Super Bowl loss, how he's going to react to it. So the Eagles have a lot to prove in this season, especially they have a harder season this season coming up rather than what they did last season. They have a lot of good contenders. So depending on how they play with those teams is going to determine how they'll do in the playoffs.
Yeah, man. And a lot of times things just turn around and pick up, like the especially in baseball, because they play all the time. They could lose 10 games in a row and still go on and be World Series champions, right? Like with
Right.
NFL, it's like you play once a week, so like a loss hurts. Jalen all the time. Hockey, kind of the same thing. You can lose the game and it's like, okay, we can bounce back and still be pretty okay off of this, right? I just want to give a quick shout out to because this is going to publish on Friday the 26th of May 2023. So we're entering Memorial Day weekend. I am wearing my red, white, and blue in support of everyone that has defended our country and our rights and our freedom. All of the thanks,
Yes,
to y'all, and all the love. Thank you, much appreciated. I couldn't be doing this right now with my best friend and just talking without your efforts and your pride and your desire to defend our rights and our country right now. So all of the love to y'all. Thank you. Now that is being said, outside of sports and things like that, why don't you enlighten our audience into like some of the things that have been weighing up here, as far as like something that you have wanted to pursue, and maybe we can engage in their feedback and see how they feel about this, because this is something that we talked about at length last night, and I was like, this is so super cool, it's so fun. And again, it's exercising freedom of speech and entertainment, because we clearly exercise freedom of speech through the microphone and doing the podcast. Anthony, you love music and I love dancing. and we just wanted to explore a different medium of performance and engaging an audience. So why don't you kind of share the story, because you brought this up to me and I thought it was not crazy, but I was like, I don't think either one of us could do this. And after talking in the last 24 hours, I was like, I think we could give it a shot and bomb. And by all means, cool, we can say, hey,
Yeah.
we at least tried. So
Right.
share the narrative with the audience real quick about like something that you shared with me, like, hey, I think I kind of want to try this thing. What do you think? And just put it out there and be open about it, because we shared our stories last night and I was like, I think we're gonna definitely do this and just try. Don't talk about the content of the story, but just talk about what inspired you to get to
No.
that point, and what made you feel like, hey, I want to try this. Like, talk about your inspirations for that. And it's definitely the stand-up comedians that you and I, separately but jointly, have also grown to admire along the way, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, and I could probably do like the cliche or like type of thing, like, oh, I've always been able to, have my funny moments and make people laugh and everything. And like your parents always like, oh, you're such a comedian and all that. Like, but then you never think like, oh, maybe I can, get up on stage and try to see if I can make a couple people laugh. But I gotta say, since we've started the podcast, and I think a lot of our inspiration for starting this podcast, alongside of like our friendship, and we talk about our friendship a lot, and music, dance, and everything. But like, I think the one thing that inspired us outside of watching the wrestling podcast was watching Two Bears One Cave and a couple other comedy podcasts that were doing the podcasting. And me and Jim have always had a friendship where we can crack jokes at each other and crack jokes on the run and be able to make each other laugh. And I started, really getting into watching Kill Tony within the last couple months. And, if you guys haven't watched the show before, highly recommend it. Awesome comedy show. They pick random people that put their name in a bucket. You get 1 minute to do a stand-up comedy, 1 minute bit. Not 1 minute bit, but you get 60 seconds to do whatever you want, uninterrupted. And then they basically, talk about you, give you some advice if so. And, after watching X amount of episodes, I've like gotten, a thing of like, it's almost like, okay, you've seen the people that bomb on there, you've seen the people that have done awesome in 60 seconds. And, I have a friend who's a comedian who was actually, a musician friend of mine back in the day, and now he does comedy. And he's been on a couple podcasts. I don't think he would mind me saying his name, but just for out of respect, maybe at another time we'll give. But like I said, but I saw him when he was just starting, and his content was like mediocre. I'm like, yeah, okay. I mean, yeah, I mean, he had some kind of funny things, and I'm like, all right, he's just trying it out. And I didn't know it was going to go into the big spectrum of what he's doing now. He's like touring the country, and he opened for Brian Regan. I think I'm not sure if he played the same show with Ryan Sickler, or he was just out at the Helium when Ryan Sickler was there. So he got to hang out with Ryan Sickler. So he's doing big things in the comedy scene in Philly. Uh, you know, so back on topic, it's been getting me motivated to be like, we are both performers, me and Jim, but you know, it's different. And I think I talked to said guy about like what's the difference that you've had between like being on the stage with being a musician versus, you know, being like a comic on the stage. And, you know, there's obviously big differences and similarities. You're still trying to engage an audience, but like, you know, trying to keep their interest is a lot different because you're trying to, you know, give them, you know, these certain laughs on there. So the last couple of months I've been really trying to write a couple bits, and again, we're not going to talk about any of the things that we've written so far because if and when we do get up on stage, maybe we'll record them and we'll throw them up on the podcast, and maybe we can get people to rate how our sets did eventually down the line. But yeah, and just from what me and Jim went off of last night, we kind of went back and forth on a couple things that we wrote, and we definitely have two different styles, which is awesome. So you can kind of get like two different styles from both of us, because I think we have both came from two different backgrounds of comedy, where you know, I came up with a lot of like the Richard Pryors, Eddie Murphy, and, you know, Jim Carrey, you know, a lot of those guys. And you know, Jim is a big Tom Segura fan, Bert Kreischer. We both love Bill Burr. So I think we have a lot of different, like, we have similarities and different tastes to what our comedy would want to be, but it's cool how we have differences, but we're so similar. And you know, I'm excited because I've always been wanting to be like, you know, it would be cool to kind of get up there for like a minute or two and just see what you can do. And, you know, because I've always been at least interested to try it. I'm not sure if I would pursue it as like, you know, I think I can actually do it, but like it's like one of those things, like I would want to do it at least once so that I can say at least I tried it if I don't want to do it again. So I would, but I would definitely want to, you know, have like a solid maybe couple minutes of material. So just in case there's like a time where you have to do a couple minutes, I wouldn't be able to improvise anything. I would have to have at least some type of topic to talk about or topics. So I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon, but this is kind of like foreshadowing. I think me and Jim want to individually, or maybe both of us on the same time, do a comedy set, whether like me going up then him or us doing something together, because I think we've both been inspired by comedy over these last couple months, like the last year since really doing the podcast. So last night we were, you know, thinking about like different bits and stuff to like talk about, or certain things to talk about. Jim had something pretty funny in my book, and I think we both kind of agreed like some of our things were pretty funny. Now the thing is, when it translates to an audience, that's the difference. Whether that just ends up you know, bombing, or if something hits, then you know, okay, well I got something here. Then that'll either lead you to be like, okay, maybe I'll try this again. Maybe, you know, rework something. You try it up again and maybe it'll hit. But if you bomb, then that's like on you. It's like, okay, am I just not funny, or it just wasn't in the right text? Maybe it wasn't the right audience, because sometimes that might be, you know, the same thing too. If you have something you're talking about and you're just not perfecting it to the right audience, you know, that could be a factor too. And I think the same thing you can say with like music and dance, that, you know, especially with music, you know, in my thing of like playing covers, obviously if you're not, you know, catering to the audience and you're just playing stuff that they're not really into, you're not going to get too much interest. But if you're playing the songs that they want to hear, you're going to get instant reactions and engagement out of the audience.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly, so I just love announcing like the day that we're doing this and the time. It is Monday, May 22nd, 2023. 11:59 p.m. It's almost midnight. Any rate, so like 24 hours ago, you were asking me about like how I felt about like how you presented, your content for your music,
Yeah.
and I provided honest opinion. And then the conversation of like you doing stand up came in, and I was like, I think, if it were me, this would probably be my lead in and debut. And I kind of just wrote it out right then and there. Like, I didn't put like immense deep thought into it. I was just kind of like, hey, and I shared it with you last night, and then I shared it with wow, I shared it with Cheyenne, and she was her friend was over today. She's going through some stuff, and I was like, hey, I'm not trying to like steal your thunder or take away from what you're going through, but I'm also trying to distract you as a friend.
Mm-hmm.
And they wanted me to read it out loud. I was like, I haven't practiced like the delivery on certain things, because that's part of it. That's super important.
Yes.
Like, and your timing on how you say certain things and punctuate certain phrases.
Yeah, and like breaks and everything. Yeah.
I only wrote the story, and that's I think it's pretty fun and cool when we hear about one of our favorites, Bill Burr, who just directed a movie. He was like, yeah, like I see, he mentioned on one of his podcasts, he was like, I see how you're delivering it, but like try to change the pitch of inflection on this word or that word.
Yeah.
And I'm like, the attention to detail is so important, right?
Right.
So I let Cheyenne read it, and she knew the story prior to, like, she knows about the thing that I talk about.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And before we got into it, she was just like, she told me, she was like, I hope that this isn't about what I think it is. And I was like, it is. Strap in. It's I put a strap on.
Yeah.
I put
Yeah.
like, I was like, hey, this is what we do. Like, comedians put like a spin on dark places that they've experienced, and
Make
that's how
something
they
funny out
kind
of it.
of, well, that's the way of navigating their trauma, but also connecting with an audience who have maybe been through
Right.
not maybe the same exact trauma, but like a similar level of like, hey, if you've been through a tough, like, and that's where comedians are like, yeah, we get you, because we're human beings too. It's the best part, seriously.
And I think if that thing was just based off like you just thinking on the spot and writing it down, I think for improvising for you would be better at doing like, going up there and just riffing for 5 minutes. Where me, that would be difficult for me because I'm not much of like a talker off of my head unless I have something to initially talk about. If you just tell me to go up there and I have no idea what to talk about, I will just be silent for 5 minutes unless I just talk about something. But I feel you can just get something and you'll just riff on it for a good couple minutes. So I think improvising for you would be, like an easy thing. You get like one little thing. Okay, I can, I can draw this out for 5 minutes if so. Not saying that all 5 minutes would be just pure gold,
if you're
but you would be able to get up there for a good 5 minutes.
No, I think it's important to acknowledge current comedians and current people that are taking the scene by storm. And this is someone that I've only grown to learn about in the last 2 to 3 weeks, and I have not studied, but really tuned into some of his work, and I'm like, Yeah, this is that kind of person that can just on the cuff, off the cuff, be like, "Oh yeah, this nice," and then be like, "Oh, like just Matt Rife, the
Yeah,
cookies and milfs comedian. I have watched a lot
right.
of his stuff, and I'm like,
Same.
not that
Same.
not that I'm trying to be him, but I'm like really appreciative of how in the moment that he is, and
Yeah.
it's so much a gift. Where I'm like, I could never do that. Like,
Yeah, I think crowd work is definitely something that you have to have like a certain demeanor for it. Like, uh, you just again improvising and just being in the moment with being able to, just be able to take somebody's information and flip that into something really quick. Because like Matt, he can just start like especially in that video, you know talking about the woman there, and then he's just she's telling him information and he's just off the cuff, just punchline punchline punchline, this and that. And sometimes you can kind of get the punchline before he says it, or you can agree, you can probably like, oh, okay, yeah, I get. But I think that's definitely if not like a gift, but it's something like you either have it or you don't with like crowd work. And I think that's something that's really cool about that type of style of comedy, to be able to just do crowd work.
yeah, and it's just the speed and the level of comprehension, and when you hear a thing, and the level of you can reproduce a response. Like for me, in my bit, and I'm gonna call it a bit because I built it. Like it's a thing. I sent it to you. I let Cheyenne, her friend, and my mother, read
Mother
it, and my mom hated it because of like she
of what?
lived
Yeah,
the
I would have
real
a
life
feeling my mom
experience
wouldn't
of
like
what
what I would.
happened.
I would have a feeling my mom probably wouldn't like. I mean, the stuff that I was talking about wasn't really risque as much as what you were talking about. But you know, I think she would be like, "Oh, and you can't say that because like me and you aren't really known to like be risque type people, so I think they wouldn't expect that coming from us." Um, but you know, I think we have both have something, you know, shaping up to be something that would be cool. Like I said, uh, I would rather in my case have something prepared, and you're not gonna be able to know how it's gonna develop until you go up there and do it. It's one of those things like, and like you said, that's where like the delivery, the timing, spacing, and everything is going to be able to come, because you can practice it all you want, but until you see it in front of an audience, because you never know, like, if you get the laughs, where the laughs will come, or like how much like time do you give between something to let that breathe. And again, that's the art of it, being able to you know say the punchline, give it a sec to like marinate with the audience, then go back into something and keep it going. I think that's the art form of it, instead of just going up there and telling a story and just tell. Like I think the art of it from kind of dissecting over the years is like being able to tell something, but again being able to space it out, let certain words or phrases marinate before getting into it, because a lot of times they're saying like you need to work on your timing and spacing. Like, just don't read right off of it. Certain things you got to let it sit and let the audience like breathe into what you just said before you get into your next thing. So I think that's something you won't be able to know until you get up there and keep on doing it.
Yeah. Jeez, I can not capitalize, but like rebound off of everything you just said so much from a dance performer's perspective.
Oh, absolutely, with music too.
So, well, so I have a friend who does like partner dancing, they're very in like the Latin, like salsa, bachata field. And I actually just learned, they told me like, hey, there are certain like hand contact movements that trigger like, hey, like I'm touching you in this way on this part of your arm that says, hey, I'm gonna twirl you, or hey, we're gonna do this thing. And I was like, I've wondered forever how, like, what the code was, because I'd always watch people to be like, we just connect with each other and we move on the spot. And they, wow, she indicated to me how it's like, the person leading kind of just does these subtle contact things on like your arms or like your rib cage or like the small of your back, and it's like, oh, they want me to do this, and then it triggers them to do, but they do that on the spot, right? And I think that's so phenomenal, because like I grew up through a program where it was like, do exactly as you're told. Here's the choreography. Don't F it up. And I was just like, yes, sir. Even if it was like 5 women that were running the facility, I'd be like, yes. Yes.
Yeah. Yes.
Any rate,
And can I tell you that I have, like, and I'm scratching off what we talked a little bit about last week with the wedding, but after, doing, learning the dance from you the night before the wedding, and then the time where I was, at your studio, and I was just placed in like certain parts in one. I think I remember being just watching one of your classes, and maybe, or no, it wasn't one of your classes, it was with Point Blank. I was just watching in on you guys just practicing, and one of your guys was either missing, and you said, Ant, just stay in this spot, or just I'll tell you where to move here and there to just be able to just have this person, so you guys have the whole choreograph. I have a new found like respect for dancers, because you don't know how hard it is to be able to time, and I'm a musician saying this, like, and I'm all about timing, but being able to be in specific spots at specific times, it's hard. You're, while being able to remember all these different movements, and it's just, I respect what you guys do, and the art form that you guys have. It's definitely not easy, and it's something that you put time and effort into, and I've only had X amount of very few hours of training with you, or from you, I'd say, as from being taught a specific dance, and what it was like, 30-40 seconds of a dance that we did, but it was a lot in that little bit of time. And I just want to say that I have a lot of respect for what you do as a dancer, and just the whole spectrum of like being able, the art form of it. It's just you think, and then that kind of goes off of comedy with it too, that I wanted to say, like, you see these comics up there, and they're just they're not just talking, but they're talking to the audience, and then they get a laugh. Some people go up there and say, I could do that, but then they go up there and they just totally bomb. You're like, okay, why didn't you guys laugh? Because it's not just about going up there and just trying to make an audience laugh. Like, it's an art form. There's an art to trying to get the laugh, and
right,
it's something that I think we both, in this aspect, have a lot of respect for comedians, because we love to make people laugh. We love being able to laugh at certain things, and we respect the art form of what is comedy. So,
right. And thank you so much for us to be able to segue into how I'm feeling about, my current work, the thing I was just talking about with the person who does like the Latin and bachata partner dancing.
Yeah.
And I said, or her and they, wow, secret's out. It's a girl. Yikes. But she was like, I actually kind of like when the male leads so that I can just work off of them. But there's like trigger notions and coding, which I didn't know about until today, because it was like a secret. I was just like, how do they know what to do next? Seriously.
Right.
They asked me, how do you remember everything? And I'm like, remember like all of the choreography that you set on certain, I'm like, well,
Yes.
it really, and this is me being super vulnerable. Like all through my 20s, like I would spend maybe 5 to 10 minutes every hour of every day, like just thinking about it. And it might be at the wrong times, but I would like dial in on that content and be like, yep, this is what we did. So
Right.
that the next week, if I didn't film it, which most times I don't film, I don't record, because I think that's like it's a cop out and a right where it's like, hey, I'm filming this because I'm allowing myself to forget it. And that's not a knock to anyone that like that's how they run and that's how they handle their projects. Like if that's you and outside of your rehearsal space, you're detached mentally from the projects, like that's because you're compartmentalizing your personal life from your work life. Like, and I've really gotten good with that because I've gotten into the studio and I'd be like, okay, I think I want us to do this. And then I get in the car and drive home and forget it by the time I woke up the next morning. I'm like, I don't remember what I did. But
yeah, I guess there's like times where it's like it would be beneficial to like tape yourself doing something like for reasons like that so you don't forget it. But then like how I think how you were saying, like when you're taping it, you're allowing yourself to forget it because you already have it on tape. So you're like, okay, if I forget it, I can always use it as a backup. But if you're not taping yourself, you're allowing yourself to keep that muscle memory in your head. So it's an interesting concept because
right.
for music, it's like, they say like for, writing down ideas to always like, put down your ideas because then you don't forget them, because I will forget a lot of things that I write if I don't either write it down or write down a melody or something. But I like the concept of saying like, if I don't record myself, it allows me to continue to remember it so I don't forget it. Instead of me being taking the lazy way out to record it, then I allow myself to forget it and having it in my background. So
that is it's such a generational difference, because me, between when we graduated high school, like 2004 to 2015, like that decade, I mentally, even after I taught it, would think about it so much.
yeah.
But I feel like because I focus on it outside of work, it took away from my personal life outside of work. So I feel like it was a hindrance. So it got to the point where I was just like, okay, well, I'm only going to focus on my work while I'm in the workspace. And then outside of work, I am going to focus on my personal life. But then I'd re-enter the rehearsal space and be like, okay, what do we do? Like I would completely be detached from it. So there is very much a balance to be had where it's like, okay, you don't have to go full blown 180 black and cold and say, yeah, no, I'm not thinking about my thoughts and my creativity between this session and this session. Whereas before I would hourly, daily, and I think it cut into so like I would never forget any of the content, but it kind of like
Yeah.
interrupted me having a personal life outside of my work, right? So tough. But now it's especially with the footage thing, like where videos can be recorded, and it's kind of like I can like it just depends on like the level of responsibility that I hold myself to, and the accountability, where it's like, hey, if I need to understand where we were before, I need to invest time prior, and it doesn't have to be every day for that project, but teaching at multiple locations and with multiple companies and setting multiple levels of work, it's kind of like a wake up in the morning, do like the morning ritual, and then say, what do I need to do to feel successful today, and then zero in on whatever projects and place a little bit of focus in on them, or what I had already preset, and then get there. My one company where we only get 1 hour a month for 7 months, and then do camp, and then they're on stage. We I don't want to say are required, because my one friend does everything on the spot, and he's openly admitted to the dancers, so not throwing you under the bus, you know who you are. He said, I don't have the patience to do this outside of here. So I think he just trusts God to like take him to the point of like, hey, this is what you're great at, and he will just produce content, and it's like pretty much always like really great stuff, and it's because that's his method of creation, right? Like us as artists, it's very different amongst all of us. Some of us, like, we can do it on the spot immediately, and then there was me for a decade through my 20s. I'd sit up in the other room behind this wall on Friday nights from 3 a.m. to 6 a.m. and say, what do I want to do for rehearsals tomorrow? And come up with anywhere from a great chunk of content for one routine to 5 seconds for 8 routines. And it was like, it got to the point where I was like, I mean, if I'm stressing this much for this many hours, for this many Friday nights and the Saturday mornings, depriving myself of sleep, I was just kind of like, all right, well, why don't I just roll in tomorrow and just what comes to mind, I'll throw it at them. And more times than not, that method worked. And definitely would have parents that say, oh, you didn't think about this ahead of time, or you're not even prepared. It's like, no, I definitely thought about it ahead of time. It's just locking in the content is not as easy as you think, because second guessing myself on multiple levels all the time.
Yeah.
Right.
Because I think we're both perfectionists when it comes to our creations too. I was going to ask you this because I know, especially when I'm writing a song, or when I'm, trying to think of concepts, there's times where I'll write something and I'll be in the moment, be like, yeah, this sounds really good. And I'm like, all right, close my laptop, go to bed, wake up the next morning, I'll look at it again. And it's like, I'll just trash the whole thing, because I'll be like, what is this? It's nothing. Like, have you had times where you did that, where like you were in the moment throwing out moves, and you put like a little bit of routines in here, maybe not a whole piece, but like different ideas, and then you wake up the next day and you're like, I have no clue what I was doing, this is just going in the gutter?
So honestly, more times than not, because I second guess my creativity so much, once I lock into something, I just lock into it and say, okay, this is it. But there are opportunities, or not opportunities, rather than there are times where I'm like, okay, do this, and then I'll set it, and then the next week I'll look at it and be like, God, that was so lazy on my end. Like, I'll definitely put myself under the bus and be like, come on, man, you can do better than that. You can make that look a little bit more smoother, not smoother, but if it's a transition section, or say, you know, they could do something that will make the routine feel a little bit more wholesome rather than, oh, they're just doing this thing over here that feels a little random. That's definitely a thing where I look at and I'm like, I could adjust that. And it also depends on the dancer or dancers, because if it's like, hey, you know, if they're in the moment, like, hey, I know what I'm doing, and they're like locking into it, and they're like, yep, this is what you told us last week, and I can tell that they rehearse, I'm like, yeah, I'm not changing that, because they've spent the time to lock into that.
Yeah,
And
right,
just,
right.
I'll just leave it alone. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Yeah,
So
because especially like I feel with this song that I'm putting out, I felt that I got to the end goal a lot quicker with being able to now knowing that the song was already written and all I had to do was just re-record it, blah blah blah. But I felt, especially in the mixing process, I was able to commit to a lot of things a lot quicker and make decisions a lot quicker instead of taking longer to be like, okay, well, uh, I think this little thing can be tweaked, that thing can be tweaked, this, that. And then you go back like, well, I liked how it was before. Then you go back to what it originally was. You start over. So I felt this time I felt, especially from the last single I had, knowing how to, get to those results of what I wanted quicker because I was able to have the experience of knowing what, didn't sound right and made sure that I had that specific sound coming into it instead of having to find it later in the mixing process. And, because there's times where, I mean, you were talking about the fact of being able to commit to certain things, especially in the recording and mixing state with me, is being able to uh, commit yourself. And I think we talked about this off air again. I was able to just commit and just say, hey, I'm ready for this to be released. Because if I continue to just perfect things, it's never going to get released. And this comes from, again, me being a very big perfectionist with my music. Because, I mean, again, we're both passionate about what we do. So, we want to be portrayed as like, not portrayed, but we want, when we put something out, we want it to be good. We don't want to like have a flaw. Now, you're never going to be perfect, but I want this to be as perfect as it can be. And I think I was able to get to that point quicker to be like, hey, this is ready. This is like, this is as far as I can get this to be perfect. So, and again, I haven't felt this proud of a project in a long time. I love the songs that I've come out with, but this is something that, I'm very, very proud of how it turned out, and from how it started to where it ended up. I'm very proud of it, and I don't have, because usually I've always had in my past recordings something that I've been like, I should have taken a little bit more time to say, hey, I could have done a better take on that vocal, or I should have retracked this because now I hear an imperfection in there. Where now it's like, and like you said, like I'm starting to learn, uh, and I'm a patient guy, but I'm starting to learn patience in my music to be able to just not rush things, to be able to just say, hey, take your time with it. Uh, if you're not happy with it, change it until you know you're okay with it. Because if you continue to just say like, ah, well, it's okay enough, and just let it, but you're going to be mad about it later. So I've been able to perfect a lot of those things, and I think that really shows with this song that I'm about to release. And you know, I've just been in a very, productive and happy state with this song, and I just can't wait to release it. I was talking to Jim last night about it as we were talking about the comedy stuff, and just saying, trust me, if it were really up to me, I would have released this song already. But I wanted to at least give it some time to marinate, be able to promote it, give people some stuff to get hype about it. And I can't wait for June 2nd. I can't wait to have this moment to just be like, hey, this is a new song, older song for me, new song for everybody else hearing it. But I'm proud of it.
Yeah, I mean, how often do you create a thing? I'll say a thing because you can create an audio track, perhaps a music video if you ever do something like that.
Yeah.
And you look at it or you hear it and you're like, okay, I can see like the goodness in this. And you try to just gravitate towards, okay, I can see where it's thriving and I'm just dialing into that versus like when you create something and you're like, okay, where's this thing ass? And how can I make it not ass? Right.
Yeah.
And I think that that's your level of commitment right now with this particular project, which for anyone listening, I have not heard. I know how excited Anthony is for this, and I have actually told him, like, dude, be patient, stick it out, engage your audience and say, hey, yo, listen, I've got something really great to share with everyone. I've been doing cover work for quite some time. I appreciate your support and your time and opportunity in catching a listen to this. And it's just something very, very simple like that. You know what I mean? So I think, with even our comedy bits, like I shared it with my girlfriend, her friend, and my mother, and my Connie was not loving it because it put her back in the place of where she had to navigate me going through the thing that I talk about, right? But she got to the end and she saw like the lines that I pulled to help round it out, and she was like, okay. And that's where Cheyenne's friend was like, do you want to read it out loud to us? And I was like, I haven't rehearsed like my delivery, so I can't.
Yeah.
And then Cheyenne actually read it out loud, which was helpful because I was able to be like, okay, well, I can change how I interject this phrase or these lyrics. It was pretty cool. And I kept asking, not kept, but aside from each other, I kept saying, hey, do you think that would read with an audience? And like unbiased, and I say unbiased, which they could be. But at the same time, I think my mom would be like, it needs a little more work. Like she would definitely tell me like,
yeah,
I don't want your feelings to get hurt. Like it might not turn out great. She was like, if you lock in on some of the delivery and how you tell the story, you could do really well. And I was like, cool. I just want to do it once and then be like,
that's how I feel too.
Nice.
I just at least would want to try it once. And I mean, like I said, I wouldn't mind, going up every once in a while and, doing sets here and there just to be like, hey, because we love comedy. So we're not like, we're not trying to pursue comedy, but like it would be cool to be like, hey, I'm doing a random comedy set that like I have like a new 5-minute set and blah blah blah. That would be cool for us to like every once in a while go down to a comedy club and just like, hey, this is something that we worked on, and sometimes it goes great, sometimes it don't, but we just do it because we love doing it. But like I said, I think we both would just at least would want to do it once to say we did it. And if we don't do it again, we don't have that thing heading over our heads to be like, oh, you should have at least tried it. So you heard it here first, people. The One Set Bros are going to give it a shot at comedy. Again,
Why not?
We're not saying we're pursuing it as a full time or a thing, but we're going to at least in the future, near or in the late future, eventually do a X amount of minutes of a comedy set. So, and like I said, we'll probably, throw it out there when and if and where we do it. And, if, anybody from the supporters of the podcast want to come out and support, we'd love to see you there.
Here's the thing. Let's make a hard deadline and say, okay, within how many months do we want to build something and go and try it once? 3 months to me is like the limit, because if we get to August and we're still talking about this and don't pull the trigger and put it into fruition and just try, it's too long.
Yeah.
So
I'd say 3 months is a good,
for me,
good, amount.
Yeah.
Because like I said, I think we both have good starters. We at least have some good, stuff to get us going. But like I said, if we're trying to at least like work up to like a 3 to 5 minute set, we're definitely going to need a little more material. But I think your story maybe is about what 2 minutes. It seems like a 2 minute.
It depends on how quickly I hustle through everything and the delivery, right? I think it's easily 3 minutes if I like let certain things simmer, because I'm not racing through it. But I think my content offers a good 3 minutes.
Yeah.
So I'll need to see like if 5 minutes is like the limit, or if 2 minutes is the limit. If 2 minutes is the limit, like I can definitely just like trim a couple things and make it more concise.
Right.
I'll figure it out.
Yeah.
It'll be fun.
But yeah, maybe let's wrap it up here, man, and
sure.
We can give the people a little glimpse saying like, hey, we're gonna try some comedy, and I think we just put hopefully a little timeline on it, saying like, we'll give ourselves about 3 months, and to try to work something up and see if we can do it within these next 3 months.
Yeah, I mean, I'm also open to the idea of saying, hey, 3 months could be long. What if we did it by the middle of July, which is 7 to 8 weeks from now? And it's like
something like that, yeah.
Because if we can do that, then you can re-gear yourself towards creating or working on your next set of content for you personally.
And like, outside of my friend that I was talking about, there is another guy that there's a podcast that we're friends with on Instagram, on our Instagram. I was thinking about hitting him up and saying like, hey, me and my buddy, we're thinking about, getting into, trying to, do a comedy set. We maybe wanted to run some things by you to see like, what do you think of the material? How can we perfect this? Would this be something that would work? Blah, blah, blah. Because we can always have, some input from local people, or we just go into it blind and say like, hey, we're going to see how it goes.
I mean, even the big comedians, they test their content with their loved ones, and their loved ones give them like the absolute most unbiased feedback and say, yeah, I don't know if that'll work. Or they'll say, yeah, that's definitely going to get them. You know what I mean? So
right. We'll
Well,
see. We'll see. I'm excited.
Me too. Just a different adventure that you and I are going to embark on.
Mm-hmm.
So amidst, I think we were talking about how comedians can kind of work on the fly, and me talking about like choreography being dead set and just doing that versus like, hey, if something happens or if you need a section where it's like, hey, freestyle here, act in the moment on the spot organically. I know, and I can speak. My sister's friend is jumping into the burlesque industry, and her debut show is next month. And she's like, I have to solidify and preset everything so that I know exactly what I'm doing. And it's like, you'll do that the first time around because you're nervous about the audience, but once you get comfortable, you can just say, and a friend of mine asked me, hey, when you do your backup gigs, is everything preset? I'm like, no, it's not. It's like we have particular moments where we're in sync with each other or we're in sync with the artists. And then intermittently, it's kind of like, okay, these 15 to 30 seconds, we're doing our own thing and we're just kind of like making it up on the fly on stage. And it's just like,
Right.
okay, this is pretty all right. So having that confidence of just being like, okay, well, I'm going to do whatever and move around and this is fine. And then have preset content to be like, okay, this is the parameters I need to follow. Like, do that.
Yeah.
I think finding that happy medium is important. But like, if you're jumping into it new, like for you and I doing stand up, it's like we will want our stuff to be memorized. Like, because if someone tries to heckle us in the audience, we'll probably cave pretty bad.
Yeah.
But like it's part of the process, right? Like bombing is important, but as long as we have a good situation and a good way of presenting our content, we shouldn't have that, right? So I'm pretty stoked for that. Anth, anything before we sign off here? We're 45 minutes into this recording and we have previous content that's tackled on as well.
Yeah. I mean, just wanted to, again, let everybody know, thank you for tuning in. This has been another episode of the One Set Podcast. You guys can check us out on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, at One Set Pod. And if you guys want to get in contact with us personally, hit us up on the Gmail and, support your boys. Pick up some merch at the One Set Podcast merch store. We'll be throwing out some merch very soon. Just putting in some final touches on some things, so be on the lookout for that. And if you guys want some bonus content, be able to watch some watch-alongs with us in real time and, chat it up with us in real time, make sure you go to patreon.com/onesetpod. That's where it's at, guys.
That's where it's at.
Anything else you got for us, buddy?
I will say, once you and I make our comedic debut on stage, the patrons are going to get footage content of us taking that leap and dive first and foremost.
Yes.
Just as a giant thank you for our supporters on the Patreon. That will be coming up within the next couple months. Okay. This is Anthony had mentioned it. Like, I think I want to take a stab at stand-up. I'm like, dude, all you can do is bomb. So like, get up there, tell a story, try to connect with people in a way that distracts them, because that's the entertainment industry. And I was like, and then we'll go from there. And last night I was like, this is the story that I would tell. And I laid it out to him and he was like, dude, that like, I'm pretty excited to give it a shot. Like, not because I'm like,
Mhm.
oh, I could pursue it, but just to go out there and do something a little bit outside of my comfort zone and different, because I kind of do the same regiment all the time. And I'm like, maybe I could do something a little bit different and just test the waters. Not like, oh, I need to build a career off of it, but like something just for fun, just to keep it light and really cool. You know what I mean?
Fun.
Fun. Tight. Right?
Yeah, man. Well, thank you guys. This has been another episode of One Set Podcast. We will see you all on the next one.